Hi guys, Sarah here with Chicken and Bulldogs Urban Farming. I'm hanging out with my girls here. We got chicken buffalo. The black one you see in the background is chicken pot pie. The weird looking one over there is Bean. And I think Char is in the coop. But it's actually a really pleasant, warm December day. I think it's like 45 out, which is great because like last weekend it was 9. We live in Minnesota, so it gets very cold here in the wintertime. So we do have to take extra precautions with our backyard chickens. And I'm here today to tell you about 5 mistakes you can make in the winter when taking care of your free-range backyard hens. Bean, your feathers are coming back in, looking a lot better. Still got a lot of those pin feathers on her head though, you can see. Another week or so and she should be good to go. Mistake number 1, not having enough ventilation in your chicken coop, and here's why. You would think that you'd have to wrap everything up nice and tight, seal all the air leaks and everything to try to keep your girls warm, right? That can actually backfire. So chickens are warm-blooded birds. They huddle together at night, and night right now is about 14 or 15 hours long. During this time, they are producing body heat through their breathing, just through their bodies. Their waste has moisture to it, and in a warm enclosure, that will produce condensation, which can stick to their combs, their feet, and cause frostbite. You don't want that to happen. So a solution to that is to add some ventilation to your coop. Now we have a little triangular area with screen just for some cross ventilation. We have some ridge vents here on the side, so you can kind of see the air can flow out that way, and then also on the top of the roof. This allows the air to continuously flow through so condensation can't build up, but at the same time they will be nice and warm inside as long as you're keeping it clean and dry as much as you can. Now, when it's cold out and you don't want to be outside, it's just miserable. You want to be inside, wrapped up in a blanket on your couch. Can't stand the thought about being outside. You might actually feel bad for your backyard chickens having to endure such yicky cold, but you don't really need to be that concerned as long as you have a place that's out of the wind, like a chicken coop, with enough ventilation so that it's warm and dry. You really don't need to add supplemental heat. Mistake number 2, providing too much heat inside the coop. So we heat our chicken coop kinda. And what I mean by kinda is that we have kind of a brooder plate, heat plate, I guess you could say, that's mounted to the inside, right there, mounted to the inside of our chicken's insulated coop. Now that will heat up the air temperature about 10 degrees over what it is outside. Give them a little bit of warmth, but it's not providing too much warmth. We actually have it hooked up to a thermometer, so once it hits like 32 or 30 degrees, it actually shuts off, because right now it's like 45. That's not on, doesn't need to be on. Chickens are really loving this weather. This is actually perfect for them. You don't need supplemental heat. But when it does get down there, like 0 at night, it does give them a little bit of warmth, but not too much that it's going to have an effect with that condensation and everything like that. We got this at a Tractor Supply Plus, but you can buy them at Amazon as well. But what you really don't want to do is heat that, 20, 30 degrees over air temperature, or to keep it like you would with your house. That's too much of a temperature change for them to adjust to it. Normally, they might get sick with the shock between those two different environments there. So if you do heat your chicken coop, don't really use a whole lot of heat, and you really don't even need to as long as it's out of the wind. Mistake number 3, not getting a heated water font. Some people are concerned because they don't have access to electrical in their backyard. We don't either. I'll show you what we do, but you really should get one of these if you're going to live in a northern state like in Minnesota. There's just no way to keep up with keeping the water thawed reasonably. It can be a high of 0 degrees, or it can even have a high of negative 10 degrees, especially like in months like January here. That means it's just going to take minutes for that water to freeze, and the chickens need access to thawed water so they can drink. So a heated water font will make sure that no matter how cold it gets, they will always have fresh water ready to drink right here. And we've been using this brand of water font since we've had chickens. We've never had a case where the water has frozen over. It has always been very reliable. We had to buy a replacement once just because the plastic ended up breaking after maybe 2.5 years of being in the outdoor Minnesota elements. You can't blame it. But this brand, time and time again, has always been very reliable. Now, some people say you can get a heated dog water dish. I haven't had any experience using that. I would think that it's still going to have the chance that it will malfunction and the water will freeze over. Some of these are like battery operated. And then some people try to say, oh, just add salt to your water. Well, you really don't want to be giving your chickens saline to drink. Some people say, oh, put ping pong balls in the water, because I think the idea is that the water will be agitated, and agitated water can't freeze. But that doesn't really work out very well either. So if you want kind of like a set it and forget it type solution, get a heated water font. So how we run the electrical for that is we do have an outdoor electrical socket, and we bought a outdoor heavy duty extension cord. And this will eventually get buried under the snow when it finally decides to snow. And last year it really didn't. And then we end up running this cord through the run. And then we have it kind of hanging on one of these rafters up here. Now you notice there's a dual plug head. There's another extension cord we have that runs in to the coop for the plate here. Oh, I'm sorry. Number 4 kind of goes against the grain of everything I just said. Number 4, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is not addressing extreme cold. Now, in Minnesota, usually there's a big cold snap in January, and sometimes overnight temperatures can get way past zero. There was one night a few years ago where the legit air temperature was -30. That was not the wind chill. The wind chill was projected to be -60. When it gets to be that cold out, you really should consider bringing your chickens indoors, just because that is an extreme level of cold. I don't recommend bringing your chickens in your house, really, if you can help it. But those are one of those cases where you really should take action. 3 years ago, we kind of got... 3 years ago, we were brand new to chicken farming. And then we had heard that it was supposed to get really cold, and we didn't really have time to really do a whole lot except try to clean out the garage enough so that we could bring our girls in our garage. And we have a 4-car tandem garage that is heated. And we usually heat the garage in the winter about 45 degrees. So it's not in your house 70 degrees warm, but it's warmer than outside. We set up a tent. We tried to give them a little perch inside. We did our best to try to create a mock chicken coop and chicken run. It didn't work out very well. They got into everything. They crapped everywhere. They got into, they made a ton of noise. They were very bored and going through all of my husband's car parts and all of his different things in his garage just because they had needed to have something to do. One funny story about keeping chickens in your garage is that they're going to figure out wherever it is that they want to sleep. They slept on the workbench, and by the way, they poop when they sleep. They slept in my husband's car. They slept on any ledge in there that you can imagine. They just kind of made themselves at home in different areas of the garage. And one funny story is we had kids' sports one of those nights. So we left and we came back. It was way past dark, and all 3 girls at the time were zonked out sleeping in various areas of the garage. And even opening up that noisy garage door and having our car pull in and shutting that noisy garage door, they didn't budge. So chickens, they really just kind of zone out and shut down when they sleep. And it's kind of weird. I After so many days, we did return them to the outside. So again, they weren't in nice warmth, 70-degree temperatures inside. They were more like 40. So when the temperatures finally got to a daytime high of 20 a day or two later, it was not nearly as big of a transition for them to get reacclimated to the outside. That was 3 years ago. We haven't had overnight temperatures that low since. In fact, last year was really wimpy. I don't think we got below 0 very often, which is very unusual. We didn't really have any snow. They lucked out. When it is that cold, your chickens, if they are left outside, they will become more susceptible to illness and injury. So you will have to take action when it gets that cold out. If you don't live in a northern state, maybe you live in southern Illinois or Missouri, you probably don't have to deal with that very often. But in the northern tier of the country, extreme cold is something you have to expect each winter. And mistake number 5, not providing enough stimulation for your girls in the winter. Now remember, chickens love to comb and to scratch at things. They love to do it. It's what they do. They love going through dead leaves. They love trying to see if they can find bugs and whatnot. That's their favorite pastime. Well, when there's snow on the ground, they're not really combing through a whole lot. They don't comb through snow. They will walk through it if you carve them a path, but there's really nothing for them to peck and scratch at. So you really have to kind of go above and beyond to make sure they have some quality of life. One of the things that we do in the winter is we add Timothy grass to their run. Timothy grass is not quite dead grass. It has some nutrients and probably some insects in what we put down. Or dead insects. It's different than straw, which is completely dead and completely dry. This year, we saved up a lot of dead leaves when we went to rake for the final time, and we have them in some garbage bags behind our shed. And when it finally gets to be the dead of winter and they're really bored, we're going to empty a whole bunch of dead leaves into their runs. They have something to comb through just like they did in the fall. We've already added a few this week, and the girls were super happy about it. And just make sure to give them lots of treats, especially high protein treats in the winter. Cracked corn is a really good treat for girls too, because it does help keep their little bodies warm, and they love to eat it. So just make sure you're spending some time with them. Give them some treats, not too much. Make sure that you're giving them an area to walk around outside if they can. If you do get inundated with snow like we can here, shovel the path. The one thing that our girls love to do is walk the path up to our house, and they like to take dirt baths in our window wells, because those are pretty much snow-free the entire window just because of the overhang of our house. And they kind of like to hang out in there and take a dirt bath or scratch the dead leaves in there too. That gives them a little bit of fun. Happy chickens are healthy chickens, just like any other pet that you would get. Just try to keep them happy. As a pet owner, you're obligated to. By the way, I got videos coming down the pipeline of Sterling, our Old English Bulldog too. So stay warm out there, guys. Take care. Happy holidays. And if you like what you see, like, share, and subscribe, because there's always something going on or going wrong at my house.